what you are doing right now, which is to take away a few minutes or a few hours from your day to find out for yourself what the story is, not what somebody told you in the news or what you read in the papers or like that. If you're the curious kind of a person that wants to know something for yourself, then you're part of the healing circle. An event like the powwow here, there's different types of circles involved. Circle of organizers, circle of drummers, circle of dancers, also the circle of people coming around to take part in the event. Everything that we do in ceremonial ways, in one way or another, involves healing. And there's always a sacred fire involved in it. The procedures that we use for these ceremonials, it's not just the traditional information. It's a way of going about your life, where what you learn at the time, like right now, is something that you take with you and you put it into practice in your own life, into your own life to find out what is the real Canadian history, what is the real Canadian identity. As I say, it's not all a sad story. It's just history, but you have to find out from the source itself how you can be involved in this situation later on. Take the responsibility to find out for yourself. That way you can act as an ally in the future. And in this particular case, there's over 150,000 people like myself that were kidnapped from their own parents, and also culturally indoctrinated. Identity theft was all part of it. The reason I say it's not such a sad story is that the old-time Indians had a name for Canada. They called it the grandmother's country because of Queen Victoria. She didn't want whiskey traders that they were going into the American reservations to eventually kill off all the Indians. We had our own gruesome part in that history. No one can choose the type of identity you get to be a part of. As an Indigenous person, I got tortured a lot in residential schools simply for practicing my identity, speaking my own language. But it was more important for me to understand what my grandmother was trying to tell us. Speak your language. That's the only way you're going to be able to think as an Indian, to think as a Dene, to think as a Anishinaabe, Mohawk. You take the time to learn your language. People know you're the real thing. You're not just doing it in order for you to impress somebody. Kasi yatsini wenda ba ongala che tagaran yatsi si. Se sit lani. When achara dira tidishu. Ninyazo makalala inta. My grandfather was kind of like my lifetime coach. Peter Mountain Sr., he told me that plenty of times, so I would not forget it. He knows the human being tends to forget things that are important and just do the things that are a little more pleasing to do. What he was talking about is, if you have a dream, you have to do something every single day to make that dream come true. After it comes true for you, no one can ever take it away from you, because you're the only one that worked on that dream. The veterans that are here, they would understand what I'm talking about. They went through the same kind of situation, life or death. Just from one of the 4 residential schools that I went to, a lot of suicide cases. A lot of them didn't quite make it through high school, didn't quite make it out of life. But that's not because they were a failure. It was because they were a human being that didn't want to give up their identity. That's what it cost them. There's also parts of it that I cannot tell the complete story myself. Out of all the 150,000 people that went through the residential schools in Canada alone, each one is a different kind of hurt. Each one is a different kind of story that no one can turn away from you. When you take the responsibility to learn it for yourself, you're completing that circle of healing. You're doing your part of it. When people talk about reconciliation, I have to think about it in terms of how the elder Philip Cote understands it. Reconciliation is not only about give me back what you owe me. Reconciliation also has to do with what I was talking about just before. Learning your language, learning your culture. We are indigenous to this country here, but we have a lot of visitors that are on equal footing to us as Canadian citizens. We cannot turn our back on each other just because we think we're living a better life. You're not living a better life when you're living a lie. You're living somebody else's spot for you in history. You're living a privilege. That's not freedom. That's a kind of a cultural slavery all of its own. When people like Philip Cote, the medicine man, gets up to speak, what he's talking about is you learn your language, you learn your culture, take a few steps, try to learn that complicated Métis dancing that you just saw. It picks up people's spirits. Some people don't know how to dance, some people don't know how to speak, some people can't even leave their wheelchair or whatever. They are entitled to everything that we have. That's what freedom is all about. Reconciliation with yourself, with the buffalo, with the eagle, with the bear, with the wolf. Those ones that we call animals have a better understanding of how to live than we do. They do not turn away, even when they see a gun pointed at them. They know that they have a contribution to make in order to fill out that circle of life that we have. There's a lot more about it. I don't want to be the type of a person that points their finger at anybody. It's not part of our culture. Our culture is to be understood in terms of freedom, to be understood in terms of healing, to be understood in the way that we contribute the way we always have to life as we know it. In a few more years, in a few more decades, what we are doing right now will be part of history. We can't turn away from that. We are being called here to be exactly where the Creator wants us to be, the most useful to each other. I just want you to think about that coming from the mouth of a survivor of residential schools. There's always hope. There's the hurting, of course there's the hurting. You cannot do anything without having a bit of mistakes and hurting and doing all those, even love in its greatest form involves the greatest kind of hurting. That's what Mother Teresa was talking about when she was here at the football stadium some years ago. Some things are hard to understand, but as Indigenous people, we know that you have to take it upon yourself to learn what it is the elders are trying to say to us. And the way they speak is kind of like a puzzle, because you have to experience it for yourself before you can say anything about it. I just wanted to share that much, and I always feel better over on this part of the country, even when powwows are involved, because there's no competition about it. Everything is done in a good way. Everything is done from the heart. There's no big money to be had from the way you're dancing or whatever you're doing. People come here just to enjoy themselves, and that's the real Indigenous way. I just want to say Chimikwich for that. Masi, thank you. Well, I hope I don't fall off this stage.